Welcome to the Electric Theatre.
Hello.
Yo, yo.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, just another day in Ohio, a little bit gray, a little bit wet. Just kind of pretty standard. How you holding up, man?
Yeah, same here. I'm in Des Moines. We live out by a lake here, so there's a lot of trees and little bit of rolling hills, little bit, and really gray today too, overcast. But for me, the trees make it beautiful, and once in a while the deer walk through, so find some positive out of it.
Dude, absolutely couldn't agree more. Yeah, I got some trees in my backyard, and we get deer through there all the time. And I'm always like, it's just a nice little touch. Just seeing some nature. It's just good shit, warms the soul.
Yeah, keeps you grounded. I was talking this morning about how we can let the outside kind of dictate our mood, but the outside doesn't really, it doesn't know any better. It's just the outside. It's just the world. And the world can't really, stop for us. So I try to look at it more like, the tree was here before me, probably. It's going to be here while I'm here. And there's a good chance it's going to be here well after I'm here. So I try to find some practical knowledge in that every day and try to let that overcast and that snow not bother me so much,
Damn. Yeah, that's a very good mentality, man. I am not that strong-willed. The weather fucks me up, man. But I don't know. I'm just trying to take it kind of with a grain of salt and find my own ways to enjoy my day,
Yeah, it's difficult. Weather, I was born and raised in Des Moines, so, I've dealt with when you're kids, you don't know any better. The snow is entertainment. You beg to get outside.
Yeah.
Beg to put on that snowsuit or make a sled out of a box or, and then the world starts imprinting you, or you meet an older person that just thinks it's cold and then they talk down on it and then you remember that and it kind of deters you away from your love. So I try to spend a lot of time just realizing that, I don't know, it's like you said, it can deter, it can really mess up your day, but I don't know, I think the more we try to conquer it, maybe there's something in there for the song, maybe there's something in there for the duration of the show. I don't know. So anyway, weather, it's an anomaly right now. With COVID and everything, one thing I notice, I'll go online and I'll see people that are dealing with COVID and doing this pandemic right now, but they're they're in Costa Rica or they're, in Palm Springs or Tampa, Florida, and quite different, all the same experience, but quite different when you're dealing with it with warm weather. And sunshine.
Right. Yeah. I think the mental part of it probably be a little bit easier to overcome with the fucking killer weather. But yeah, man, I mean, this whole thing is just fucking gnarly wherever you are, dude. I mean, like, just the amount of people I know that have been fucking affected by it and the people I know that don't give a fuck about it. And it's brought out a lot of different shades of humanity, I would say, that I think were a little bit more muted before it happened. You know what I mean?
Well, I think you're exactly right. I don't really like to get in there too much with this because, I know we're all dealing with it so much. And I'm trying to find a way to bring, light into other mechanisms. But I agree with you. The thing that I'm enjoying the most about this whole situation is that people are showing their true colors.
Yeah. And dude, 100%.
the thing is like, I tell it like this. When I go to fly, I can almost predict how my flying experience is going to go, because I'm going to get into whatever class I'm sitting at the time. Let's just say it's business class because I'm going overseas. I get into my seat, and I'm tired. I'm ready to sleep. I've been on the road. I got to get my sleep. I've paid that dollar so I can lay my head down and get my rest for the next performance. But then I have this, usually a gentleman, come in. He's been power drinking at one of the places in the airport, comes in and just starts power phoning and talking very loud. And someone like me, I won't say anything because I'm working on me, and I'm trying to work on not letting that get me. But I've noticed that for years and years and years, and now those sort of personalities are just right out in front now. I mean, during this time, right or wrong, people are really, really showing their true intentions, and I think because of that, it's going to get pretty violent. It's going to get pretty ugly. I'm not sure how we're going to deal with it, but I agree with you that it's been very difficult.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I definitely could not agree with you more, man. It's just true colors is the best way to put it. But yeah, I mean, we don't have to get into it too much. I'm sure there are plenty of other things we can cover. But yes, it has been what a fucking wild time for humanity, man, with like modern technology and with the internet and fucking social media and all that shit. And then just it all being blown out, and then this whole fucking COVID thing. And yeah, it's a wild time. But that being said, it doesn't all have to be negative,
Well, yeah, and I didn't mean like we couldn't talk about it or nothing. I just mean like it's a wild time, and
I get you.
Who knew? I mean, what? I remember watching an interview with somebody in Poison, and they were saying that when Nirvana came out and hit like they did, it really affected their genre of music. Everybody went there and didn't need to go to that genre or whatever. And I feel like a lot of that's going on right now. Like, this is hit, and everything that maybe we could have never put in our face is in our face. From animals coming back to their, animals being released, animals coming back, smog, pollution, trash in an ocean, all these sorts of things that we could have never foreseen, but we've all had in the back of our mind. We see someone toss a cigarette, and we think, oh, one cigarette bud, not a problem, but 10 million cigarette buds, a problem. So it is a very bizarre time, and I think, unfortunately, after what's been going on lately, I feel like we're boiling, I feel like we're boiling and it's going to pop. So it might not be a bad time just to stay at home and write songs and get together.
Yeah. Dude, I am not going to lie, man. I feel like one of the luckiest people in the music business, timing-wise, that got affected by this COVID thing. And I count my blessings every fucking day. But, man, like, our last show, so we were on tour, and it was the last tour of the record cycle. We were in Europe. It was fucking biggest headliner we've done. Everything was great. And our last show was on March 6th. So, like, probably 2 weeks left in the tour. They're like, hey, there's, like, this sickness going around Europe, and we're doing fucking VIPs. We're doing, like, meet and greets and the whole bit. So we start, we're like, it should be okay. And we bring a little bit more hand sanitizer to the meet and greet. And then, like, by the end, we're like, holy shit, this is no joke. We're trying to get home from the airport, and we're getting fucking grilled. Like, where have you been in Europe, and how long are you there? And it was nuts. But, all this to be said, we literally flew home on, the 6th or the 7th? And then everything shut down. But we had already, put time aside, like, yeah, we're going to take 6 months off, year off. I'm going to make a record. It's, easy enough. We're going to do a few radio one-offs and a couple fly-ins and whatnot. But, we literally finished our cycle about a week before the fucking world shut down. Like, we could not have got lucky with our timing. What, were you guys out on the road or anything? What was going on with y'all?
It was such a weird thing. It angered me so much because we flew in from Europe, and it was a long haul, really cold tour, fantastic, it's been awesome. And then I and my wife decided that we were going to take a week in Vegas. We flew into LA, and Corey Taylor was there with me, and we were in a lounge, and we were talking. I was like, hey, man, if I don't see you at the airport in Vegas or whatever, I'll see you in Japan. And he just looked me right in the face. And he just, I can't, you had to be there, but he's like, I can't even explain it. He was just like, that shit's not happening. And, I get
look of what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I get angry when people want to take away my not my livelihood, my medication. I need to perform with the good people of our culture in order to survive this planet. That's what I need most. So when he's like, that's not happening. I was like, what you talking about, Willis? I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
What in the hell? So we got into it a little bit, and he started informing me all this stuff, and he knew it. He had it all down. He had been on it. He'd been watching it. Me, I don't watch TV. I'm out, man. I'm completely oblivious to anything around me. And that's how I do what I do, and that's how I would maintain who I am with my art. Yeah. So I call the manager right away, and he gets upset because he's like, I wasn't going to tell you anything because there's no guarantees yet. Nothing has been decided by the world, and I'm trying to get all the facts from the main players, meaning, Live Nation, who does our tours, and, the people that we work with. And sure enough, man, that was it. I was in Vegas for about 4 days. My wife started watching the news. She's like, we might want to either rent a car or get on a plane because things are getting really weird. And sure enough, I got home, and the next day they just closed down the whole world. And we were supposed to go to Japan, Australia. We had a South America thing. So what we're doing is obviously we just abide because safety first for all the good people of the world. And so when something gets canceled, we rebook what we can and what makes sense in the natural order of things. So I know that we're booked at some weird month that's very, very long from now. So I always tell my manager, I'm like, please call me up 30 days and I'll believe you then, So we were on our way. We were going to have a short break, and then I'm a little bit more upset than usual simply because, I don't get to Japan that much, and I feel like sometimes I'm from there. So I love the culture. I love the people. I love doing shows there. So, it's an extra hurt that probably just not going to get there. Obviously didn't get there last year, and we're not going to get there this year. And, that's sad that this world continues to get more bizarre. Who knows if we're going to get there ever? I just don't know. So I just try to stay positive.
Yeah, dude, fucking Japan, man. That one does hurt because I could not agree with you more on Japan. Like, Japan is, I think, the coolest place to play a fucking show. I mean, the people there are so fucking amazing. The people that come out to the shows, like, it's an experience that you don't get. So, like, playing Germany, it's just like, fucking carnage. You go there and they just fucking love metal. they know what they're signed up for, and it's always just chaos. Japan, I feel like, is this crazy, like, hyper-controlled chaos when you play. At least in my experience, it's like, if you say jump, every single fucking person, I mean, all the way back in the balcony, it could be anywhere. People work in the shows. Like, everybody is up in the air. And then when the song is over, big cheer, and then dead fucking silence. Like, people legitimately just want to hear what you have to say. And, like, you could hear a fucking pen drop. Yeah, and then it's amazing,
just to add to that really quickly, and then I want you to continue. Just to add to that, clapping and then stopping. I had to ask an interpreter once, like, look, I understand that they want to hear or whatever, but they clap and it's dead silence for 2 minutes until what's up? And part of that was that she told me that they want us to be able to get our mental, spiritual, and physical rest in that 2 minutes without anything altering that. So their consciousness is very focused on their health and meditation. They're able to zone out for 60 seconds in order to bring in. So they really believe if they shut up for 2 minutes, we'll be able to somehow bring up our energy bar, and I just thought the consciousness of that is beyond thinking. But continue.
Yeah. I mean, it's that pretty much. Yeah, I mean, that just explains like how it feels to play a show over there so well. Just because it is the most chaotic but purely respectful experience playing a show that I think you can ever have. Because, like I was saying, there's all your staple spots that are going to be, when you play London, when you play Rock am Ring, whatever. Like, what you're signing up for, and it's just going to be a bunch of people that are fucking wasted, and they're going to go absolutely nuts, and it's just nonstop carnage. You can barely get a word in because everybody's just screaming the whole time. And it's great, and it's wonderful, and that's, like, one of my favorite things in the world. But, like, there's just something about that feeling you get when it's just dead silence. It's almost eerie, but it's like, I don't know, it's kind of empowering. It's like, holy shit, like, these people really care about your performance. Like, they're letting you get your break. They want you have to say, and they're going to do any fucking thing you ask them to do. So it's like, it's just this feeling of, it's almost overwhelming for me, at least. Like, I sometimes I feel like, sorry, I'm kind of tripping on my words here, but when we're playing a show normally, I usually feel pretty fucking in control. I'm like, I know what this crowd wants. I know how to handle it. And I know how to make sure everybody here has the best show they've ever had, like that they're going to fucking have a great time, which is something you guys do as well. And what Corey is so fucking phenomenal at. But, over there, it's just like, we're all in this. And whether you want silence, whether you want people fucking crowd surfing, whether you want people clapping, whether you want a fucking wall of death, whatever you want, like, we're here for it. But us as a crowd are also going to make sure you, as a performer, have the best experience you can have, which I just find like this crazy spiritual, like, Zen fucking connection between crowd and performance. And it's amazing.
It is unless you're there in the crowd or on the stage performing, it's really hard to explain. And there is no video or, medium that can explain that except for physically being there and witnessing it. And you're exactly right. I remember once we were doing Fuji Rock or something, Fuji Fest. I can't remember what they call it. And I remember I was on stage and I was looking at the barricades, and they had this weird barricade. Like, it's like one was in front, and then 8 foot later there was another one that went off this way, and I can remember going to like my tour manager and then going to the like promoter, and I'm like, man, that's some bullshit that you guys put that much control on the people and don't let them have a good enough time. and you have to put all those barriers up in weird shapes, to me it seems like they would get hurt. And basically, he just let me talk. And then at the end of it, he basically informed me that if they didn't have those the way they did it, we would be dealing with one mass of power. So if you were on stage and you're like, everyone jump to the left 10 foot, that whole place will jump to the left 10 foot. And
yeah, dude.
They put those barricades up to stop that power, to stop that unity. And, you know, as much as I don't like it, I want the safety first, so it makes sense. But I just turned white the way he explained it, because it was so overwhelming to think that everyone there could be on one consciousness. You know, just to say something very briefly, Japan was the very first place I ever saw anybody wear a mask on their face because of health. And this was 20 years ago. And it was basically just explained, hey, it's very expensive to live here. Everyone works very hard. When someone gets a cold, they wear a mask so the people around them in subways and this and that, elevators, tight places, they don't get sick because they got to provide for their family, pay rent, and these sort of things. And I thought to myself, that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my life. And I find it really ironic right now that a lot of people are just having problems you know, dealing with the idea of putting on a mask or not wearing a mask, or thinking they're being told to put one on or not being told. The fact of the matter is the human race is pretty filthy. And you know, just, in my opinion, it's made things a lot more trustable. I mean, regardless of laws and these things, from the Japanese people, I just learned that, hey, if you got a cold, why would you want to get the person next to you sick? They have responsibilities. They can't.
Dude, yeah.
You know,
and holy shit, it is so mind blowing. I mean, I had that experience. You know, we first started going over there, and I'm like, are people like afraid of getting sick? Like, what's the deal? And yeah, I got to explain the same thing. They're like, no, that means they're sick and they're doing everything in their power to make sure nobody else gets sick. And I was like, man, that is just such a foreign ideal to like the culture I grew up in. You know what I mean? I feel like in so much of American culture, it's just is you look out for number one. You look out for yourself. Literally fuck everybody else that gets in your way. Doesn't matter. Obviously, not everybody is like this, but there's that's a big portion of our society. And so to hear that, like, it's so much rooted in respect and, you know, like you were saying, the understanding that people have fucking lives and jobs and families, and like if they get sick, that can fuck that up. So they just do it out of respect. I'm like, man, that is just fucking cool. Like the Japanese culture, man, it is absolutely my favorite. You know, I got to actually, for the last record that we put out, I got to spend like 10 days there in a studio, and it was just me, a guy with a camera, and I just got to live there for like 10 days in Shibuya. And I was like, this is just fucking so interesting to me, man. Like the work ethic, like even working with the engineer in the studio there. Like I would say something and I mean, in 10 seconds, that shit would be done, or like finding out how someone else can do it. Like just the amount of respect and understanding and like, I don't know. It's just everything about it was a total mind blowing experience, but it's made it, you know, my favorite place to go and visit.
Well, and beyond, I don't usually like to throw out facts because I could be wrong and I don't stay up to them, but I know that Tokyo generally has the most people in one place in one big city at one time, the most population, and they're able to make it, and they're able to make it work, you know, and they're on an island, and the consciousness there. Just last night I was watching people, you know, really digging into civil rights, about not wanting to wear masks and everything. And, you know, it's a very tricky situation. But in the end, I'm just thinking to myself, everyone's filthy. You know, it all comes back it all comes back to, did your mom and dad teach you to wash your hands? Did your mom and dad teach you the things you needed? What if you don't have those skills, but you're fighting for these ideals of, don't tell me what I can and can't do. But the point of the matter is, as a race, as animals on the planet, we all have things, and it blows me away that we wouldn't want to take care of each other. So you said it. It's take care of number one and fuck everyone else. And until that changes, I'm a fond believer of taking care of number one, because I believe we've all won the lottery to have the ability to breathe air here. I mean, you could have not been here. It would have been very easy for you if not to been here on this planet. There were many others besides you that could have taken the opportunity, but you're here. It's like a lotto. So it's like you do need to protect your investment in this original life form that you have, but you would think that it would be built in us to also take care of all of ourselves, all of us, like, the animal planet, the bug planet, all kinds of things work together better than we do. And anyway, again, I just hope people find what they're looking for. I don't try to make it right or wrong, because everybody's right now, because everybody's wrong and no one's listening. And
Oh my God.
Let's talk about what we do. So you and I got something in common. I know that you like AC/DC, and read a little something about, just a little something or whatever, but it made me think, you were talking about Back in Black and, influence and rock and roll and stuff. My question is, you're a lead singer, so are you a Brian Johnson guy or a Bon Scott guy, or are you both? Or my biggest question is, first of all, I wouldn't make you pick, okay? I wouldn't make you pick, because people like us don't pick. We love it all. But I guess why I'm asking is, you specifically, you were talking about Back in Black, and that's when Brian came in, and that's their biggest album, and it's one of my favorite albums. And Bon Scott is greatly different. So I'm just wondering, are you able to identify with Bon as much as Brian under the brand name AC/DC? It's just interesting to me because you're a singer, and I just thought it'd be kind of a cool way to talk about it, because there's, you're a singer, they're singers. What do you identify with most?
Dude, this is the shit I'm talking about, man. This is great. Talking about AC/DC, hell yes. Big fan. So, the whole thing for me is like, I mean, gun to my head, like, if you look at the records I listen to, they're pretty much majority pre-1980. I would say Bon is like my fucking spirit animal in a lot of ways. Like, I think, when I watch interviews, when I watch their old live shows, like, he was just so fucking free-spirited and a powerhouse at the same time. Like, this dude could sing his ass off. His lyrics were, like, super ballsy for the time, and they were just writing about, just dumb shit, just shit that's fun. And I don't know. So, to me, I think if I identify, with either one, it would be Bon, just because, I don't know. I think what I see in Bon is like the things I wish I saw in myself, especially when I was a kid. Like, when I first really started getting into AC/DC, I loved their just free spirit, and the fact that, Angus is just running around like a chicken with his head cut off going fucking crazy. And they're just playing these mountains of amps turned up as loud as fucking possible, and they're climbing on shit. And, there's videos of them playing in clubs to 200 people and it's chaos, and there's videos of them playing to 100,000 people and it's chaos. And I was like, wow, this is the music that I love. Like, these dudes just don't give a fuck what's happening. They want to play loud. That's all they care about. And then, I start diving into Bon, And I'm like, this guy was fucking wild. Like, he was an absolute wild card. But that's like, to me, that's so cool because I feel like I was such a tame kid. Like, I was very, very shy, very like soft-spoken, not confident. You know what I mean? Never thought I could be someone like that. So, I think that's one of the things I love about AC/DC is like when, I started really discovering them, I was like, this is somebody I want to be. Like these traits, this like not give a fuck attitude, this like, we're just going to do this because we love it. Like all of these things, I was like, that's who I want to be. So I think that's, one of the main reasons I identify with Bon as a singer. But that all to be said, obviously fucking Brian is a beast. I mean, the dude filled some of the biggest shoes in rock and roll history. And then they came out with Back in Black, the third biggest selling record period of all time, I think, behind Eagles' Greatest Hits and Thriller. So yeah, I mean, he really took the fucking brunt of everything because like Bon set it up and then Brian just knocked it out of the fucking park. But yeah, I mean, I could talk AC/DC for fucking ever.
I remember when I was a kid, I don't remember what age I was, but it was around the album time. But the live album, If You Want Blood, so they had that movie, and they used to show the movie Let There Be Rock or whatever. God, is that what it's called? It's been so long. But anyway, they got
yeah.
Yeah. So they have that movie, and they would play it at this movie theater when I was a young kid, and it would be on Friday nights, and they would do an 11 o'clock or something, and when Angus Young would do his solo in the movie, like they'd go to the song If You Want Blood, and he's running around, he's got the guitar, people would dress up like him and run down the aisle, kind of like Rocky Horror, and they would they would mimic the guitar solo and mainly Angus's moves. And
his walk, dude. His walk was one of a kind.
Yeah, as a kid, I was like, fuck, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, if rock and roll can butt into a movie theater in Des Moines, Iowa, 11 o'clock at night, and pack the place, and people get out of the, I'd watch Superman there, Raiders of the Lost Ark, all these movies at this movie theater. No one ever got up and went to the front, So they were always a really, really, and still are, such a staple pillar of my whole creation, I think, in art. Such a great band.
Dude, that's amazing, man. I had no idea. Very fucking cool.
What about what's your favorite album?
Oh man, I really go through a lot of them. Like it changes a lot, but I was really into Powerage for a while. I think that record's kind of slept on. That shit has some fucking jams. Rock and Roll Damnation, I believe, is track 1, and that song just comes out of. That album's so good, man.
It's amazing. Hardly anyone even knows about it. It's like, what I mean is everyone knows about it, but like they overlook it. You're absolutely right. They stick to the hits and the big ones, but if you go back there and, same with High Voltage. High Voltage and Powerage. I mean, Squealer is like one of my favorite songs, and rock and roll, all those tunes, man. You're right, but so you basically listen to them all.
Dude, I love them. See, honestly, my favorite records are the records before Highway to Hell. Like, don't get me wrong, Highway to Hell is fucking phenomenal, obviously. I mean, that record's incredible, and it sounds I think it sounds pretty much distinctly more like hi-fi and more modern. Like, that was a big shift for them as a band. But, dude, just like the guitar tone on High Voltage is just the meanest fucking thing I have ever heard, man. It is like just this hissy, angry fucking, it just sounds loud, which is really hard to like capture in a recording. But the guitar tone on High Voltage is mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's hard. Not only is it hard to capture, but the effort. A lot of people, they want to work those sort of things out. You know, they want to clean those things up when the vibrations being turned to electricity. You know, they
Yep.
oh, you know. So it is. You're right. I'm a real big fan of old music because mainly bands had to have material first. And like, take a song like that. Take a song like that. That band had the material. It was natural. It was practiced. They knew it inside out. They could bring it in. Fortunately, unbeknownst to them, they're recording analog to 2-inch tape. Everything's analog, so they're getting that saturation. You know, they're getting the saturation. They're getting the tones, and then boom, here it is. I find that as we go further and further into rock and roll, less material is good. Technology is utilized more than the ability of practical practicing or playing.
Yep.
And then technology, you know, programs, plug-ins, these sort of things are just efficiently uncreating what we create as nuances, because there's been enough people now in rock and roll to create a hypothesis to say that, well, you know, generally we roll this low frequency out, or we do this or we do that. And I just think, you know, it starts with the material. It just begins there. It's like acting. The movie's not going to be any good if you don't have a good actor, and you're not going to have a good actor unless it's good material. So I tend to really worship those tones that you're speaking of, because everything was wide open. People didn't necessarily know who people were going to identify with most, so everybody was allowed to be themselves. And it seems like these days, bands go in like, hey, we want to sound like AC/DC. Well, AC/DC never went in saying they want to sound like anybody. And if they did, it was a small group of references. You know what I mean? It was a very small, probably misunderstood, detailed references because things were so limited. But
dude, I totally agree, man. I couldn't fucking agree more. Like, think about back then, like AC/DC, you know, they're listening to probably old blues records. And like,
that's all they're listening to. Or
yeah, exactly. Same with the fucking Stones. Same with, you know, tons of bands. And even then, when they're trying to be like, what's the next sound? Like, they're listening, you know, they have to go to the record store and get a record that they've never heard and just see if it inspires them. When nowadays you just jump online and you can look up anything. Like the fact that I'm just on my phone and I'm just like, oh, what song was that? I don't have to go to, you know, a CD or a record or anything. I just pull up my phone, type in two things, and I find it out, or I can listen to it and reference it, whatever. Like, and it's the same thing with recording, man. Like, I've been, you know, doing producing for quite a while now. And when you just notice the trends, like the thing, you know, you hear this record and you're like, oh shit, that's that kick sample from this plugin, and that's that guitar tone emulation, and that's this vocal trick. And, you know, every single vocal now on every single recording is perfectly tuned. Like, you know, singing is such a different art form now. Singing is more, can you just get close enough so that the auto-tuner can do its job and you don't, you know what I mean? So much of performance has been turned into digital emulation that I think it really just changes the way people interpret music, because the listener is so used to hearing perfection. I mean, absolute perfection. Like, there is not one bit of the feedback from when you held that guitar a little too close to the amp while you were tracking. There's no, you know, the drummer like sped this part up a little bit and like you can feel the band trying to keep up. It's all perfection. And so, you know, like I was saying, people are just used to that now. So I think if stuff comes out that's raw, people are either confused or they just don't want to listen to it, because they're like, well, why did this singer miss a note by 3 cents? Or why was this snare hit, why could you hear the rim shot of that snare hit instead of it being perfect? Like, I don't know. It's a wild thing. It's a wild time.
Well, you hit on something else that I've had an enormous argument that I'm trying to be an advocate for, and I don't want to say that everyone's disagreeing with me to disagree with me. It's just that everyone I feel that I come into contact with about this, they've decided to go with change. Change is good, and if you don't go with change, you get left behind. But in art, you may preserve things. You can preserve inks. You can preserve dyes. You can preserve papers. You can preserve music. So my problem is, you and I are in the studio. We've decided to record directly into Pro Tools. So we're going to record, the normal person listening to this might not know what we're talking about, but we're going to record in 96, 32. So there's a kilohertz and bit rate, and it's massive, right? 96 is massive. You and I.
That's what I make my records at, man. Yeah, dude, 96. Because you just get so much clarity because there's so much information. It's crazy.
Right. So we're there. We're not running tape. We're not running analog. So we're running the highest res that we can that makes sense, 96. So you and I are on the couch. We're listening back to a song. It's pounding through these speakers. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on albums potentially. We turn it in to a mixer. He maximizes it in a mix, bringing out everything so they show their face. Then we hand it over to a professional masterer who hopefully will listen to the song second by second and take care of the areas that have red flags, whether it's too much or too little. So we spend all this money doing all these high-fidelity things to get our point across. Then we turn it over to one of these companies. There's many of them. I'm not going to name any of the names because it's not about them. They're just doing their thing. It's not about it. I don't even believe they're doing it maliciously. But these companies take our songs by the hundreds of thousands, thousands of bands, tens of thousands of songs. It's got to be uploaded somewhere. It's got to be housed somewhere. It's got to be accessed. It's got to be put back. There's a lot of numbers involved in that. So what do? They take our $100,000 worth of our statement in fidelity, the highest we can provide to the consumer, and if they put it on disc, they cut it in half. If they put it online, they make a glorified MP3 if we're lucky. And by the way, they won't even tell anybody what they do because it's so bad. We spend all this money making this great sound that you and I can just push play. And here's what's funny, is most of these companies still give the ability to listen to a 9616. So what I'm saying is you and I could record in a studio at 9616, listen to our song, upload it for a consumer, a fan to listen to it, and some of these programs still play 9616, so the fan could be listening to it exactly like we're listening to it, like we want them to, but instead, these companies take it, put their own codec on it, they cut it in half, they make it their own MP3. It's horrible. I can hear it. I can hear the
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I can hear it. So I only
it's crazy.
I only ranted on that because of what you said. It's really, we're really moving out of the traditional way to hear music, and what's happening is we're really brainwashing everybody to accept what you said, this perfectionism. But I feel like that will only last so long before people will start craving those weird nuances that we all fell in love with, that rawness. You take away the rawness, you make it sterile. Sooner or later, someone's going to hear a little something, and they're going to, it's going to come back around. But I think music is in a real rotten place right now, and I think most of the bands that are getting through, it's not my place to say, but as long as you did the work and no one's doing the work for you or creating something that shouldn't be created because it was created with a keyboard and on a console with plugins, then music's in a bad place.
Dude, I have got a story for you, man. So I will tell you my story of kind of understanding the reality and heartbreak of modern recording. So, I don't know how much you know about like Beartooth stuff, but I record it all, write it all, play it all, perform it. And I usually do it in my house. I have like a studio that I put in my basement. So our first album, I just did all myself on a computer. Second record, did it all myself on a computer in my basement again, and then had it mixed by somebody else. And then our third record, I was like, I am just fucking craving something different. And like, I fear that I'm losing my ability as a performer, like playing instruments, by recording this way. So I want to push myself. So what I decided was I'm going to write, perform. I'm going to make a real record. Like if it was fucking 1987 or 1992 or fucking whatever, and I walked into a studio, like that's what I want to use. So for the writing sessions, I flew out to studios all over the place. I flew out to LA, to New York, to Tokyo, to Nashville, and it was just me and an engineer. And there'd be a drum kit set up, there'd be a guitar and some amps, a bass and a mic. And I'd have to play everything. I wouldn't be able to like program out my ideas, you know what I mean? Using like a drum plugin just to like play my guitar along to. It was like, no, I had to go in there and cut a drum track, and then I had to go play guitar, and I had to write it all in my head before I even performed this stuff. And then after all that, when it came time to like actually cut the record, I go over to Nashville and I did it at Blackbird. So I used a few different rooms at Blackbird, but it was, to me, I was like, if I can't achieve this the old fashioned way at Blackbird, then I need to like reassess how I make my music and that I call myself a musician. So I did it, I went in there and did the whole bit. We set up tons of drum sets and shot them all out. I played every one of those drum parts. We didn't resample the drums. The guitars are, live out of old fucking Marshalls and old triple Rex and all that shit. And it was a real record. And, so we cut majority of the record on a Neve console. And then I actually finished it up with Nesca Linux, and we did a good bit on his old SSL-G series. And then I mixed the record at Nesca Linux Studio, and I got to mix it on an SSL, like, I think it was a J series, like a 90s J series or something. But, mixed it on a console, and then we cut it down to 1 inch, and then Ted Jensen mastered it straight off the 1 inch. So it was like, there was obviously DAW involved, and there's a bit of editing, but the way I went about editing the record was I tried to preserve that realism. Like with the drums, instead of cutting every single hit, it's like, let's just cut this section and like slide it a little bit if it feels like it's a little behind or a little ahead. And so I made this whole record, dude. We spent a lot of fucking money, whole lot of money making this real record, on consoles, all live instruments, mixed on a console, cut to tape, mastered off of the reel, like the whole bit. And, to me, it was so special. I was like, I fucking did it. This took so much more effort. I mean, infinitely more effort. It took, a year to make. And I was cutting my fucking teeth and losing my mind. And like, I almost permanently fucked up my left arm from tracking drums, because to get the snare sound I wanted, I had to hit the drums so fucking hard that like my left arm started locking up, and I literally had to take a year off playing drums. And so we put the record out, and yeah, people love the record and it's really cool, but the the percentage of people, we even made a documentary about like making this record, just like to show people like, hey, this is how it was done. You know, it was done the old fashioned way and whatever. It's like, dude, I don't think besides short of maybe like me and you, you know, some musicians that kind of have a similar mentality, nobody fucking cares. Dude, I could have made that record I could have made that record in my basement with drum samples, with my own amps, with whatever. And like, people just didn't, that part of the record isn't what people attach to. They attach to the songs. So I guess there is also the argument, though, is would the songs feel the same if I would have done it differently and whatever. But it was just one of those realizations where I was like, this type of recording is obsolete. Like it technically, from a pure technical standpoint, I'm not talking about an emotional standpoint, but from a technical standpoint, like it doesn't make sense. Like I, have an emulation on my computer for this Neve channel that, we're spending thousands of dollars a day to use this fucking Neve console when I could spend, a couple $100 one time. And I basically have something that's nearly indistinguishable, especially once it's being streamed and the quality is being cut from, like you were saying, like 9624 or 9616 down to literally an MP3 that they have their own limiting software. So everything sounds the same volume. Like there's so much that gets changed at this point. I don't know. So that was basically, that whole experience was like the most triumphant and most heartbreaking experience I've had as a musician, because I put in so much work to overcome the like modern recording cycle that you get stuck in, where you just go to a producer, it's MIDI drums, it's fucking, digital guitars, every vocal is tuned perfectly, whatever. And, but yeah, it was just a wild experience to kind of realize the hard way, like as much as this is so satisfying my soul, is it efficient? And it's not, it affected our record cycle. You know what I mean? In certain areas, it was like, we can't use this money for promotion because you spent so much fucking money making the record. And I was like, shit, like, was it worth it? So I don't know. I guess that was like kind of this big moment where I had to start asking myself, like, was it worth doing? And to me, it was worth doing. But to the listener, I feel like they really, you know what I mean? They're not going to be like, oh, sick. You could hear the snare kind of go out of tune in the last verse. You know what I mean? They're not paying attention to that, averagely, at least.
They're programmed. Everyone's being programmed against that. Right or wrong, you made the right decision because in your lifetime, from A to Z, you were born and you will die. And in that lifetime, you pushed yourself to do that work. So, in my opinion, subtract the idea of money and all that and just really indulge in the idea that you pushed yourself, because most people don't know maybe what we're talking about, but, I know exactly what you're talking about with the snare arm, because I did an album with Rick Rubin and I had to use this bell brass snare, and it damn near ruined
Yeah.
it. I mean, the engineer was like, hit it harder, because I don't want samples. I want to play.
Yep.
I want to play my drums. I want to play as many measures. If I can play it from beginning to end without a click and keep it real, I mean, that's the ultimate push. Again, like I said, if people want to know a little bit of what we're talking about, I think they make a really good reference in Walk the Line, the movie about Johnny Cash, where Johnny Cash goes to the studio, Sun Studios, and basically he finally gets to record, and he goes home, he's been drinking, and he tells his wife, he says, he made me do it 5 times. Well, what people don't know is the whole band did the recording live together, separated in rooms, and they played it without a click, with real feeling, together, and they did it 5 times, and the producer picked the one that felt the best. And very doubtfully did they cut tape back then. I don't know. Maybe they cut the hell out of Johnny Cash. I doubt it, because
highly doubt it.
Yeah, he was bringing in the material, and he was bringing in the practice. He knew it inside out. He didn't need help. He didn't need auto-tune. He didn't need Easy Drummer. You know, he didn't need any of these things because he had done the work. So I think for you, you know, I feel honored in my life and my recording career. You know, our first 2 albums were cut to tape, and I mean, they were taking razor blades out, and people were putting guns in their mouth. I mean, it was real. Like,
yeah, dude.
You had to get. They'd be like, "You need to come in and do some vocals." I'd be like, "I'd rather shoot myself in the leg because it's work. It's real work." And by the end of it, you're like, "Wow, I feel like I did an 8-hour day out in construction." You know, so there's a real sort of work ethic and job behind making records. You know, that people forget. But I hear you.
Yep.
And again, I think we get off easy because life changes, and change is good, but if we don't go with it, we're going to get left behind. So in the end, I think you're really lucky and fortunate that you pushed yourself to do that because you have that experience now in your life, and you can always remember it. Money will never buy that experience, but you know, maybe you did learn that for your way and what you do, it's probably not as efficient. I think that's okay. I think really where I was going is I wish the general public would demand higher resolution, but they're not going to because they're getting groomed and brainwashed into receiving what they're receiving, and they don't even ask what they're receiving because they wouldn't know anyway. They're used to buying a CD. They hold it in their hand. They put it in. They're buying an album. They put it on a turntable, a cassette, whatever. Buy an MP3 off a program and push play. You're not asking what it was. You're not asking how it was made, what its definition is, what its resolution is. So it's not going to change. It's going to be less and less studios, less and less Neve boards, less and less tape, and we're going to go this way. But you have to go with change, man, or we're fucked. You know, we'll be gone. So
yeah, dude, I totally agree, man. My take on, you know, kind of that whole experience, and like also very wise of you, man, you know, saying that this is something I should be proud of, and I am proud of it, man. Like, to say that I've been able to do that in my lifetime, like, I checked that one off the list. Like, I made a real record in the big time studio on a console and used fucking tape machines, and it was sick. But I think the biggest thing I've taken from that whole experience and what I'm trying to do moving forward is the knowledge that, like, I mean, I got this knowledge from maybe some of the best people in the game of a real dying art, which is analog mixing and analog recording. Because, you know, when I was working with Rascal Lennox, it's like him and his engineer are just, you know, he's a Sound City guy. He's been around for a long time, done crazy records. Like, you know, watching him work and his function and his workflow and the things he cares about, you know, he's not sitting there thinking, you know, all about these specific frequencies and these things that are, it's just, does it fucking sound good? Is it loud enough? Does it sound good? And does it kick ass? And like, that was something I'll never, you know, I would never have got that experience had we not worked together and had been recording the old fashioned way. And, you know, even like, you know, I got to work with Greg Fiddleman for a little while, and, you know, that dude is incredible. His mentality to approaching producing a band, songwriting, like, there was just so much emphasis from, you know, I guess like this prior generation of mix engineers that, you know, came up more in the 90s, that the emphasis is on the emotion. The emphasis is on, does it feel right and does it sound right? The emphasis isn't on, well, if we use this kick sample, it might sound a little better when you switch it over to MP3. Like, you know what I mean? It's just the hunger for like real art and how to push somebody to get that. And that's the shit that I've learned, and I'm going to take, you know, even so, like, I just finished an album, you know, I just finished our 4th record, and I did the entire thing during COVID. You know, I wrote, other than, you know, I wrote maybe half of it while we were out on tour. I have like a little studio rig that I tour with. But other than that, I did it sitting in my fucking basement. And, you know, I went and cut drums at my buddy's studio. But other than that, it was digital. You know, it was just done on computers because that's what I had at my fingertips. But, you know, had I not had that experience at Blackbird or with fucking, you know, Fiddleman or Rascal Linux and, you know, getting that insight to what's actually important in a song, then I definitely would have felt a lot less comfortable and a lot less proud of what I made, you know? So I think it's about kind of blending like the important things and using that to press forward into this new age of recording, but just, you know, with the right mentality.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's so much to learn, but, you know, listening to you, I guess the way I would sum it up for you is your fans would be going without your art if you didn't have the ability to create in your own atmosphere. So all of us that want to create and have a request to create and people needing us to create, you know, we need to create how we can. We need, that's kind of like why I love impressionistic painting so much, is like those cats would go out and they'd be like, oh, here's a flower. I'm going to grind it up and add this and I'm going to have blue, you know, and like if they weren't doing that, you know, we wouldn't be fond of the imagination they provide us for. So in the end, yes, analog recording is a hierarchy of collecting vibration, you know, taking sound, vibration, capturing it, turning it to electricity so we can look at it and all this garbage. You know, it's a great analog recording is maybe the best. I don't know if that's a good word, but is it better than you not being able to get your mind out? And I would have to say no. So there's no comparison. If you just don't put it out, people can't make that decision like, oh, he should have done it on analog instead of digital. The point is you have it out, and that's what we need. We need it out. So in the end, it's all good, you know, but I do believe people should always fight for the, you know, you're not going to go to a restaurant and think that you're going to get half of a sauce on something, you know, because we all want to demand the high res of whatever imagination we're indulging in, whatever color, or saturation, contrast, whatever it is. We sort of need the best of it for ourselves in order to be influenced. So, well, hey, before we go, good talk. Tell me a little bit what you got going on in the new year, or what your plans are, or, you know, what's up with you and your friends and your guys, and just like what's up with you guys? What are you planning on doing?
Yeah, man. So, you know, like everybody, we're on the downtime still, just hoping for the next tour to come around. You know, we thankfully, you know, our booking agent was like really ahead of it. So we started putting holds. You know, we got holds for spring and then that fell through. Then we got holds for summer and then fall. Like we put a bunch of holds down. So hopefully we can get back on the road. But as of right now, we're just kind of in that, like, in the gray area where the album is finished. You know, I've turned in all the masters. It's all been approved. But we're like just now getting to the point of putting together the rollout. So, you know, we're kind of living in that gray area right now. But, you know, on a personal note, I feel like we're all doing pretty well. At least for me, I've just, you know, I feel like everybody, you know, just the mental side of COVID hit me really fucking hard. And, you know, on top of that, there was just a bunch of other gnarly shit that happened in my life kind of coinciding with the COVID shit. So I really struggled for, you know, kind of like the middle section of 2020. And then I was like, you know what, it's time to get my fucking shit together and get prepared for this record because it is going to happen eventually. So I've just been trying to eat better, hit the gym as much as I can, you know, kind of get in fighting shape for whenever we're actually ready to go out. But yeah, I think that's kind of what we're all doing as a band and just as people right now is trying our hardest to stay kind of mentally in shape and physically in shape for whenever we come back, so we're not like blindsided, like, holy shit, they just announced shows can happen in a week, and we're like, fuck, we haven't played in fucking forever. So yeah, I don't know. We're just trying to stay sharp, stay busy with what we can, find ways to stay entertained and not go crazy. But yeah, that's just kind of where we're at, man.
Well, that's good. Sounds like everybody else. Let's make sure we do this talk again, and if we're ever in the same place, please come say hi. I know.
Yeah, of course, dude. Of course.
Here in 2021, when we all get back together and things get back normal, I'm gonna take this to more of a personal level. Like, you know, like if we were out on the road and on the same festival, we would do this in person and you know, get to see each other and continue. So anyway, stay safe. Good luck on this new record, and we'll do this again. And look forward to meeting you or seeing you out on the road, man.
Yes, dude. Anytime I can see you, brother. Would love to say hi, and hopefully we can fucking rock soon enough.
All right, man. Peace.
See you, brother.